Yo, people of the Patreon, welcome to this track breakdown of my tune This Will Stop that's out on the Vision compilation. It's called Mission 01. I'm just gonna start straight off with what triggered the inspiration for the tune. I was basically designing some samples to actually put on the Patreon. It was in April, and I made that drum break. I think it's like active drums with some processing on it. So yeah, if you go to the sample folder from that month, you'll find bass lines that are kind of in the style of This Will Stop. Also, all the drum breaks that I used to like. That I used to make the track, and then like the main piece of the track is that bass line with the chord on top. And that's kind of the complex element of that track, so I'm just going to go in detail on what I did there to make it sound like this. So there's a lot of processing, as you can see. It's kind of a standard in my production. I always have that one channel in every track where there's way too much processing on it, and that's kind of what's creating the unique sound, I guess. So if I take off everything, I'm going to go through all the processing. If you were there on the Patreon in April, I might have done like a live or two, so you might remember of those sessions where I was basically making that tune. So we start with a very simple sine wave patch. So all you have in there is a sine wave with like that very simple volume envelope. And it has the spread from operator all the way to the top, which basically just like detunes the left and right. So then straight on the processing, I've utility desk commenting everything to mono. So basically the detuning between the two sides clashes together and creates movement. And then some hard distortion. So I'm starting to create some harmonics. Then I have an EQ to like basically low pass everything all the way to 173 precisely hertz. Then this track is really important. Is going to bring two layers of distortion. One is like going to be very, very much the top. Hold on. My bad. Maybe there's a second one coming. Not sure. Alright, never mind. So first layer of distortion is a bit of a fuzzy top, so I'm gonna go through all these devices. So we have a first distortion from the Ableton pedal. Then I'm adding some flanger, a multiband dynamics. And what this device is doing is basically just gating. There's no multiband stuff happening. It's just I like the interface of that device. It's like pretty intuitive. So I like to use it even like a single band device. And then I'm just high passing everything all the way to 1150 hertz. So it's just going to bring some top end basically. That channel is just a dry signal. And that channel is some more distortion stuff. So let's start. Clippy medium curve distortion from Ableton Saturator. High passing everything all the way to about 100. Limiter to gain stage that element into an overdrive. So I'm just using that limiter to kind of control the level frame it's going to be at the input of the distortion, the overdrive. So then overdrive. And Ableton overdrive as like an input filter. So basically it's going to, before it inputs the dry the drive algorithm is gonna like filter the sound at that very spot. Then we have another rack with some more stuff on it. It's kind of like a bit reduction chain. So we have another EQ. Limiter is just like taking the gain down somehow. Another overdrive. Redux. So Redux is just downsampling everything. And then we use the vocoder to like make it a bit quirkier and just limit the frequencies it acts in. And I'm using the Foreman to kind of shift everything to the top. And then you mix that back with the dry signal that's coming from, that's basically the post overdrive signal. Then we add another flanger to make it kind of wiggle stereo. And then now that we have all these distortion kind of layers, I'm using this multi-bin dynamics once again in one bin mode, but I'm using the sidechain input. That's basically the signal at its state at this point of the chain. So it's like dry coming out of the synth. So we get all the dynamics from like the volume envelope from the synth. That way, kind of like bring back dynamic into that very flattened sound that's distorted. I'm basically doing synthesis with all the Ableton effects, just treating them that way rather than like having very complex patches. It's like I'm gaining back some dynamics in that sound, that layer of sound, and then I'm EQing everything so it's like just sitting in the right spot. And then you mix it back with that layer and the dry sound. So that's kind of a texture rack basically. Then we go to the filter rack. So in that rack we have two layers of different filters. I have one layer that's just low pass. And basically the movement is made by, once again, the signal from the straight out of the synth, so you get all the dynamics. And that way I can use the envelope to reshape that sound. And once again, it's like using Ableton effects like a synthesizer, basically. I'm just taking the dry signal from the synth as a modulator for that filter, plus I'm adding the LFO to it with dotted setting. That way it doesn't re-trigger every full bar, so I get a different choice of movement. And I'm gonna come back to this later. You're gonna see how I use this creatively. So yeah, some like pretty soft envelope settings and good amount of LFO, and I have pretty much the same settings in terms of movement on this second layer, which is a bandpass filter. And I'm just going the opposite way with the envelope. That way we kind of get that clashing filter movement that certain users are pretty familiar with. And then I'm cutting everything on that channel. I'm just cutting everything all the way to 200 Hz. It's really vowely, and that one it's more like 1p, and that one is really like bringing some like robotness to that sound. Cool. Then I'm just like taking out lots of a low end here, probably to basically to try and like highlight the top when I'm bringing it back up with like distortion and limiters after that EQ. Then we have a rack that's really important. It's the rack with the resonator is going to create the chord basically. So that one I think is pretty key to this sound. Jeez. So if I disable every effects, and go stage by stage. So we have that first resonator that's like creating all the different harmonies. Basically, it's like we have, is the tune in B actually? I'm not sure. I think the tune is in E, but somehow B sounded good. But then I'm like trying to like find that kind of minor seventh flavor with that chord, and just be careful when you use that device with a stereo. With just like try and manage it so it doesn't go all over the place, because it's pretty wild. And then I use an auto pan as like a volume LFO basically to try and create more rhythm. Starting to get the flavor we get in the final version of the tune. Some high pass filtering, once again with being modulated by the very dry signal out of the synth, and using the envelope follower and the LFO on top of it. But now it's a different rate setting, so there's going to be lots of clashing basically, and that's what I'm looking for in that tune, because later on we're going to resample that. Then bringing the top up with a multiband dynamics, but that way I'm actually using it as a multiband device. Then just like going very high with the high bend, trying to like push that really nice top end. Then we have another multiband dynamics that I'm using as a single bend device. This one has once again the sidechain from the synth to do pretty much exactly the same thing that in the distortion channel, where I had it just give like bring back some movement in the sound that's like pretty squashy. It's making it tighter actually. And then one more time I'm tightening up just the low end that time, with a fairly short envelope that creates kind of like some ringing, which is nice to hear. Wait. Cool. Then an EQ to just place it correctly. That Valhalla room is just used at that point in the tune to then we have a limiter to manage it before it hits the distortion, and then we're mixing it back with that signal, the dry signal, which also has a bit of processing on it. So dynamic tube and an EQ. Just making it a bit softer and more musical as well, with the even harmonics just going pretty well with the 7th chord. And then I'm just like basically doing a bit of like channel mastering. Limiter, tape, and then another limiter. Don't ask me why. But yeah, that's about it for that channel, and that's gonna be pretty key for that tune. Like this rack is kind of like the soul of that bass line. Cool, now we can move on the final project, because I've basically resampled that in the final project. Right. So there we go. You see, chord bass resampled right here. The reason why I resampled that bass line is basically for the reason I talked about earlier, is that with all those clashing LFOs within the chain, I was getting lots of options of different variations of the sound. So what I did is just bounced it and selected what I wanted out of it and just arranged it. And then I added some more effects on top of it to make it fit the tune a bit more. So I have lots of EQing apparently. Pre-surgical. Right. Hold on a second. Let me just disable everything and go stage by stage. So first, bit of EQing. Really subtle, to be honest. Just making some room for the drums, basically, and just bringing out some top. Another EQ. I'm not sure this one was on, actually. Right, so that chain is pretty funny because it's like, it's a lot of effects for a very minimal change. So yeah, I'm just making everything mono, 2 overdrives in a row, just absolutely smashing that sound. Let me try and see how it sounds at this stage. What? Shaping everything with the multiband dynamics once again. Chorus. Phaser. EQ to like remove almost everything. It's just bringing in some noise basically. And you mix the two together. That was just squashing some of the top end. Was that? No, that wasn't on. And these two were on the reverb. So yeah, then we have a bit of like warm tape to crunch it up and basically mastering it, like just setting, sealing. Then I have that space device, which is basically just a reverb, like some macros on it. Well, just a reverb. It's a reverb with a low pass, low cuts on it, 2 low cuts, one before the reverb and one after the reverb on the OTT. And it's just a Valhalla room, like pretty short. But I'm just using it, like it's getting re-squashed by the OTT, so I'm just using it at like a power reverb for that one hit. So there's automations right here. So that's the send and that's the return. So there you go. That does just that little bit of sound that gives a lot of power to that first hit. So yeah, this is without it. Very dry, and then just giving it a bit of like depth. And yeah, then just a limiter. Just maxing out everything basically. And yeah, that's about it for that part. Then I'm going to talk a bit about the drums and how they evolve through the track. So yeah, the first drum were really fucking simple, but it was just because I wanted to lay out everything so then I could like get into the production. But on this final version, they were finished. So what I did is I added a shit ton of like effects once again to make some space for the synth transients. So what I did is I used an EQ and I used the scale parameter on the EQ to come and shape the transient of the snare so that it doesn't get in the way of the synth snare. Plus I added sidechain later on, like a linear sidechain without any like spectral stuff happening, so that it really doesn't get in the way. So if you look at how it sounds, stupid. Hold on, I'm making some space here using both this and the... Wait. How am I sidechaining it? Where does it go? Drums, no snare. Oh, wait. How? What? I'm confused. Oh, there it is. My big fuckhead. Yeah, sorry. That was a stupid sidechain, like a normal Ableton compressor sidechain. Whatever. So there is okay, so let's roll it back to that channel. So yeah, basically I'm using that compressor and that EQ to shape this break snare so that it doesn't get in the way of the synth transient. And I think I'm doing something pretty similar to the kick drum, but it's so subtle. So yeah, then kick and snare are very basic. The kick, yeah, it's just a sine wave with like a pitch envelope and a volume envelope. What I did is I really took care of like setting the attack to the right setting so it doesn't click too much, and then doing the transient management with that first curve, and then you kind of like choose the punch with where you place that point. And yeah, that's it. Then the snare is a couple of layers though. There's white noise. So that white noise is created by frequency modulating first oscillator with the noise. So we don't actually hear the noise oscillator, but the oscillator A with like being frequency modulated by the noise. And we have some detune on it to make it stereo. But we just take the random trigger all the way down. That way we get every time the same noise sound. That way it stays consistent. Bit of filtering to remove the low end. Doesn't seem very obvious. Whatever. Oh, because there's an EQ for it. Right. A bit of sidechain to like make very sure it doesn't get in the way of the transient. Then basically managing it with a limiter. Then there's a bit of a ring and a bit of a transient, which is basically the same thing as a kick, but higher and with the different settings. It's a bit faster pitch envelope, a bit different, a bit shorter of amplitude envelope. Then it's all being a little distorted together, and it's mixed with the break. So that's step one of the drums. Then we add a bit of a hi-hat, but it missed a bit of top end, so we had a noise hat. That is, once again, a serum. Same technique as the snare bit. And just like keeping the very top end. So those two, those two just really fit together. That's just the acoustic add. And then you add the noise add. Just gives it the nice top end, basically. Gives it definition. So there we have the chord, the tune is there. So then, yeah, arrangement wise, what I've used is just like some very standard little drums edit. So you go like, remove some parts. Then what else? That's like happening at the same time of that little pad. Pad Ecologique is basically a session I did with just recording myself playing with feedback with the Valhalla delay. And there is a setting on it. Basically you can put that setting on a thing that's called quad. I don't know what it does, but basically you have kind of like full interacting delays or something like that, and then you play with like feedback and delay time. There's a spread parameter as well, and then you can do like half an hour session just doing sounds with that, like 3-4 knobs, and you get all those weird ambient pads sounds, kind of sci-fi sounding, and yeah, you just incorporate them in the tune, and it really works on that tune. So I'm really happy about that. And I'm using them a lot in my new tunes as well, because I think they sound really cool. So yeah, Lose Yourself, very important for sound design. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Then we go into that section with like, I love how minimal the differences between this and that section is just literally a tambourine and a ride that are adding to the drums. So we have that kind of like stop. And then there is this string patch. Oh wait, it's not the right. It's just coming in the background and really making a difference. I really like how like minimal it is. And then yeah, another Pad Ecologique that's doing that part, but there's a new bass patch. It's basically the same bass patch, but like with slightly different parameters. It's the same bass patch as like the first project. So you have that kind of like barky sound.
Two possibilities exist.
With more of these Valhalla delay session sounds. So yeah. I'm gonna come to the vocal a bit later, but yeah, then simple breakdown with some more pads and shit. So that's like all the some more feedback delay sessions. That's like a, I think it's the same device, but it was another session actually. But I really fucking dig the sound of it. And then we have the chord that's like reverbed. So it's like the same patch as the original bass, but I muted the bottom layer, put it an octave higher, and added some nice reverb on top of it. So that's a Valhalla once again. And yeah, then the break is filtering back in, if I'm right, or out. Yeah, out. And back in. Clap.
And also entitlement as a human being to Find something.
Yeah, that clap effect is actually really important, that one. And it's basically 909 clap with a echo automation, and that's it. So yeah, breakdown, that's about it. And then that bass patch on the second drop is like my favorite of the tune.
This world stopped.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. It was a bit of a happy mistake as well. I think I just added like some different distortion devices and kind of tweaked the chord multiband dynamics. And yeah, I think that's the one difference, is the distortion device here. So and then absolutely ramming all the high end in that multiband dynamics, and just like doing some like compression and gates. So yeah, lots of multiband dynamics in that project, and and like all those changes make it more make it sound more electrical to my ears, and I really dig that kind of like fuzzy sound it has now. So yeah, second drop, new patch. I don't think there's much that's like different. Maybe just the EQ at the end, just making it a bit even more fuzzy on the top, just bringing everything up on the top. Still distortion, bit of EQ, managing the mid range and limiter, and that's about it for that section. And it was a proper happy mistake that those chords, like the end of the bar, was sounding so cool. It was just like putting notes on top of each other. I don't know. Don't ask me. Love it. When the reverb comes in and everything. That was like really like just happy mistakes. And then that second bass come back in. So I guess I've explained pretty much everything about the drops. And then the vocal, really important. So just for a little backstory, I had another vocal in the beginning. That was this one.
Please do not listen to the recording if you are driving or operating machinery. So, when you are ready, making yourself comfortable, take a deep breath in, and as you breathe out, close your eyes and begin to relax.
But I don't know, I wasn't feeling it. It wasn't really like that meaningful to me. So I digged a little bit more and found another ASMR video. And in that one, the girl was reading a novel, and in that novel was quoted Arthur C. Clarke, that wrote 2001: A Space Odyssey, the book that inspired Stanley Kubrick to make the movie. And also they co-wrote the movie, actually. And yeah, I just like, I didn't know in the beginning, so I was like, I remember sending the track to Kamal on Telegram, and he basically told me, you know, you have an Arthur C. Clarke in there. I was like, who the fuck is Arthur C. Clarke? And I had to Google it. And then I found out it was this guy, and it was a really happy accident, because actually I think the tune just really had that kind of like retro sci-fi vibe. So it felt like it all fell back in place, which was really, I don't know, really satisfying moment. So yeah, then it took me about an afternoon to get the vocal right, because there was a lot of clicks and pops and stuff like that. So I used Isotope RX to manage all of this. Let me make sure. Cool. So yeah, the cool thing about that software is that you can edit and see the sound with that kind of like 2D layout, but like basically the low part is the bass, the high part is like the high frequencies. So you have all the spectrum vertically, and then the depth represents the volume of each frequency. So you get every bit of tone and all the noise stuff, and then you can use some tools, basically like Photoshop, and just go ahead and just remove heavy clicks and pops. And because most of the time it's not about just removing them or just like linearly just cut them out of the waveform. That doesn't work most of the time. You just have to do like to keep a little bit of that pop in there, but like just remove some bits of it. So that way you can go and select that bit and just like lower the volume of it. And you can go really like in very fine detail about that. Replay some part, remove some breaths, like soften some S's and stuff like that. That's like so useful. So yeah, actually that tool RX has been a major change to my production. Now I like think completely differently when I want to approach a tune, because I have that software. So yeah, if you're looking for an audio editor, just use this one, because yeah, it's like really, really good. So back to the project, what I added on top of it is a flanger to start with. Let me just, can I disable everything? Yeah, let's do it. Not sure I'm gonna remember. So
2 possibilities exist. Either I am alone in the universe, or I'm not.
So flanger, then you add
2.
Oh well, that's nothing. Cool. Empty rack. And then after that we have an EQ that's managing the mid-range pretty much.
2 possibilities exist.
Then wait, yeah, there's a utility that's just doing like some volume fades here and there. So like here, here, to like for the repetitions to come with a little fade in. Then another EQ to remove some more mid range. It's like really making that vocal smiley and comfortable, you know. Then limiter
2
and a tiny touch of long reverb.
2 possibilities exist.
Just gives
Either
it
I'm
that.
alone in the universe, or I'm not. Both are.
And I copied that reverb patch to the synth actually. That way they kind of like are cohesive space wise. So I think it's like pretty much the same patch. No, I was wrong, it wasn't. So yeah, that's a different reverb. Maybe it's like this reverb that I'm not using in the vocal anymore. Wait.
2 possibilities exist. Either I am alone in the universe.
Or am I? We need a check. We need a check. Where is the master?
Either I am alone in the universe, or I'm not.
Nope, it's not in there. That one is not in there, but that patch went to the synth. So cool. So yeah, that's about it for the vocal. Then I did a channel with some vocal preverb. So just like take the vocal, reverse it, apply some reverb, bounce it in place, and re-reverse it. So that way you get that pre-reverb gasp. And then I edited them to just stress some syllables and words. So.
Or I'm not. Both are equally terrifying. The power of the thought experience through memory and knowledge.
And then I used those preverb reverse. I don't know, I think I reversed them and just like use them as like materials to support some parts of the tune, especially at that one. After 8 bars after the drop, we have that one that's like really interesting to me. she's actually not saying power, but it sounds like a power. I think she's just like saying hour, something like that. But it sounds like power in a reverb.
So it's like re-complementing the tune, I guess.
So yeah, and then that second part / verse just gave the name to the tune, because the tune was originally called Behind His Glasses. Then I called it This World Stopped because it made more sense with the vocal.
This world stopped. Both are equally terrifying. Both are equally.
So yeah, that's the vocal part, and that's pretty much it for the creative part, basically. And then the mixdown was really simple. It seems complicated, but it's actually not. Because, like, for example, I bust up the drums without the snare to, like, then bust them up with the snare. So it's like all the drum without the snare, then going into a bus with the snare. It was supposed to be processed differently, but at the end I just, like, disabled all the processing for some reason that's, like, that I can't recall, to be honest. But yeah, clipping the drums pretty much straight out of there. There's a couple of drums that are going to the drum sidechain, so just so that it don't get in the way of the kick and snare transient. And then they're getting bussed up together. Then there is a bass bus, but it's not really useful. I mean, it's just like, there's just a limiter on it that's being activated when those two bass play together. So that's like there. Shoop. Otherwise, it's not really working at any time, because all the basses are pretty much on their own. So the channel is just like the sound, basically. And then this channel with all the rest goes to the sidechain bus. So yeah, there's no like there's not like several sidechain or anything on that track. It's just like one straight sidechain. Send everything that needs to be sidechain except from the drums in there, and then mix this channel with the drum channel and the master channel, which gives the track master, because there is only a Ozone 8 limiter on it, so there isn't any master coloration. And the limiter is pretty much like a clipping. So yeah, just IRC4 transient mode, and I use the very fucking fast character with the 2-peak, of course, on. Otherwise, you get some weird surprises either at gigs or when it goes up on streaming platforms. Yeah, that's about it, basically. If you want some, I heard that you guys wanted some ASMR channel references for stuff to check, like good channels. You can check Sophie Michel. I think she's the one in the tune. Sophie Michel ASMR, and she's doing tons of different stuff. Who else? Can't recall anyone, to be honest. I follow a couple. Oh, there's that. There's a cooking channel. Well, no, baking channel, actually. I think he's Japanese. It's called Japanese or Chinese. He's called chocolate cacao, or chocolate cocoa, chocolate cacao, whatever. But check him on YouTube. It's like, it's not necessarily ASMR, but he's like basically baking, and you cannot, like, he's not speaking or anything, and there's no music, so it's like all the baking sounds, and it's really well recorded, so it's like really fucking calming. If you listen to this, it's just like, sometimes I just like, every time he puts a recipe, and also it's like so fucked up recipes, like he did like a mint jelly chocolate tart once, or like some crazy like 3-piece like bite cakes or stuff like that, and it's always a lot of fun to watch. and it's like just really relaxing basically. But yeah, if you're an ASMR fan, just, I don't know, share what channels you follow. That's about it for me. So yeah, this will stop. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll let you know if I have any answers for you. Oh wait, actually, yeah, one thing I didn't cover is that break in the beginning. I've done some processing on it, and mainly some automations to like make it come and go. So there's an echo, send. And inside it there's a convolution coming from trash. Like the trash convolver. And then I'm using that double stereo channel thing in Ableton to really manage where the break goes in the stereo field. And yeah, doing some automation to kind of like make it diegetic in some way. But since it's not following any like image object, yeah, it's pretty rough, but still gives the feeling, you know. Yeah, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Just a lot of ambience to make that intro a little bit of like a little world. So yeah, that was it. This will start track breakdown, Patreon exclusive. Signing off. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll do my best to answer them.